Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Comedy Defect Podcast. My name's Winter Phonander, I'm a comedian, and this is my show. So welcome to the show, guys. Those of you that are new to the show, welcome. Those of you that are old to the show, welcome back, guys. This is the first one in a while. Now, I've been away in Edinburgh, and I've been doing my Edinburgh show, my first, it was a 45-minute show, guys. So, yeah, it was great, thanks for asking. 4 of the shows were bad, and to be fair, I was playing my show in a tent, so let me tell you how that went. So there's a lot of background noise coming from the courtyard of the Three Sisters, and that was all bleeding into my tent, and that was fine. You know, you got to compartmentalise noises when you're playing in a rather rowdy area, so that was fine. Compartmentalised that noise, and then there was another noise with a walkie-talkie up against the, I say wall, use that term loosely, against the wall of the tent. And that kind of distracted all of the people that were in the tent because it made them feel terrified because they didn't know, because of all the terrorist things going on. It just, people are on high alert no matter where you are these days. And that walkie-talkie going off 5 times, you know, it spread out throughout the show. It wasn't all at once, just 5 times throughout the show. Just distracted everyone enough for me not to get them all on board. It was going fine. And then another day, it was just tough going. There was a smell of puke there. But a day after that, I had a reviewer in, the only reviewer I had for my show, and it was going great. But that morning, they had 80 barrels delivered to the courtyard. And so I was going great guns. I saw the reviewer laughing. It was going well. Then the staff of the bar started to move those 80 barrels down into the cellar. So every 5 seconds, you just heard Kong, Kong, Kong. It's like I was getting gonged off every 5 seconds, which was tough. But the reviewer left halfway through, and I don't think the review's come out now. But you know what? I'll tell you this, right? I had the best Fringe this year. It was great. So much fun. I had audiences were great apart from those 4 shows, and just had such a great time. That was my Edinburgh Fringe, guys. And if you came up to see me, great. Thanks for coming up, guys. But if you didn't, that's fine. I'll be taking it around somewhere else, and I'll be doing another show at the Leicester Comedy Festival in February, and you'll hear more about that soon. But I've come back with been inspired. I saw so many shows while I was up there. I did so many gigs. Saw so many shows. I had such a wonderful time. A great Fringe. But I came back. I slept on a blow-up bed because it's glamorous, the Fringe, for the whole month. And when I sleep in a bed now, I get a bit paranoid that I'm going to fall off of it. But that's fine. I came back with a horrendous flu, which I've just gotten over. But you know, I'm okay now. But hey, that's what it is. But hey, I had a great Fringe, as I say. But you know, I'm just so inspired and so pumped about what's the next year is gonna offer. But this episode is episode 53 with a very funny comedian. I met her a few years ago, and she's doing great. She's killed the gong at the Comedy Store. She's become king or queen of the gong in the Comedy Store. She's doing really well for herself. She has a character called Sally Firth. Her name's Sian Doughty, and I'm going to talk about her later in this show as well. If you like this podcast, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Patreon if you'd like to donate. You can donate as little as £1 or as much as you feel this podcast is worth. And those of you that do donate, thanks, but those of you that don't donate, that's okay. Just share your favourite episode, leave us a nice review, because the new update on the iPhone, it's really easy to leave a review for your podcast now. So go and do that, because it all helps. This is an excellent episode with Sian Doughty, very funny comedian, and the Comedy Store. She's doing her first 10-minute spot in the Comedy Store on the 13th of October, so go and support her there, and go and see her. She's absolutely great. You're going to really enjoy this episode. I really love talking to Sian. She's a very funny woman and a really lovely person. So enjoy this episode 53. It's the first one in a while, and it's a great one. Enjoy. Sian Doughty, welcome to the Comedy Defect. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much for asking me. I'm honoured.
But thank you for coming on.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
And so what have you been up to?
I'm preparing for the Camden Fringe at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm going up to Edinburgh for the 3rd time this year, just to be part of other people's shows. But in the meantime, I've got together with some other old people, all over 50, to do a show called 3 Men and a Babe. That wasn't my idea. I'm the babe, but it wasn't my idea to be the babe. Mm. And we took it to Hastings Fringe, and we had a fun time there. And we're doing a 5-day run at the Camden Fringe in August. Great. And we're looking forward to that. We're not working together, it's a compilation show, so we're doing 10 or 15 minutes each with an MC, yeah. And the name of your character is Sally Firth, yes. Sally Firth. She's really me. Somebody did ask me where, how similar she is to me. She really is me. I started off doing stand-up as myself, and after about a year, a couple of things happened that made me think that I had nowhere else to go, and I invented Sally as a response to the young men I'd met on the circuit. I'd spent a lot of time in open mic clubs, and I'd seen young men talking about the same topics, which they still do, mostly around sex.
Yeah.
I don't quite know when it happened. Well, I think it did happen after a particularly bad gig when people weren't laughing at something I'd been doing, and I went away and somewhere got Sally out of nowhere. When she started off, she was really rude because I concentrated on the rude aspect of what these men talked about, and it went down very well in the open mic clubs because they knew what I was talking about. But when I started to get proper jobs in village halls and things like that, and once I did a school gig, and when I opened, I'm not quite sure I'm allowed to say on here.
Anything, you say anything.
When I opened with, my first line used to be, I've got my son's act here, my notebook here, I'm going to do his act. I used to say, and the first thing he's written is wanking, which I said went down well in, below a pub and above a pub, but not in Wokingham School Hall, and they just looked at me. I've learned from that. So I moved things around a bit, and I started off with the cleaner stuff.
Yeah.
And if I do 20 minutes, I do add in the rude stuff because they've got used to me then, but I find it works better if I'm just saucy.
Yeah. You've softened them up for us, haven't you?
Yes, that's it. I've learnt with my nearly 400 gigs, I have learnt so much. I've had some dreadful gigs, as we all have, but I'd like to think nearly every single gig is worth doing because you take something away from every gig.
That's true. You get stronger, don't you? You just build up that comedy callus.
Yes, and just you either meet somebody that you get on with, you meet somebody who gives you a gig, and you learn every time from what you do. I'm very lucky in that I'm very rarely heckled. But when I am heckled or something happens in the audience, I'm completely nonplussed. That's something I still have to work on.
But you also have that, you're a teacher, aren't you?
I am a teacher. I actually don't believe I'm a teacher sometimes, but yes, I am a teacher.
And you teach children with special needs, isn't that right?
Some of them have got special needs. Right. The job, my day job mostly is working with children who aren't in school. Some of them aren't in school because they've behaved badly, they've been excluded. The pupil support team keeps them going until they go back to school, or sometimes they don't go back to school at all. Some of them are out of school because they're unwell. I've had 2 little boys with leukemia in the past couple of years. Some of the girls are pregnant. It's all sorts of things. They're registered at Hillingdon schools and they're out of school, and we teach them in the meantime. Yes, some of them have got special needs. I've had quite a lot of autistic children in the past, and that's very interesting, of course, because I was thinking about this on the way over. There seem to be a lot of autistic comedians. It's very interesting because I've only ever met young autistic people. And I saw somebody the other day, one of the autistics, I think it was Luke Poulton, who I don't really know, but I did a gig with him a few days ago, and he said at the end, they say if you've met one autistic person, you've only met one autistic person. And it's true, because every single autistic person is different. And even though I've taught loads of autistic, mostly boys, I still can't spot an autistic adult. Again, I did a gig on Saturday, and the chap came up to me, who I'd gigged with once before. We had a chat, he borrowed my pen, he came back, gave the pen back to me, he went on stage, he said, "Oh, I've got autism." I thought, how did I not spot it? Because I work with these boys all the time, and every single one's different.
Can you talk about what happened recently with you, because you had got into a bit of a situation, didn't you, when I was
attacked? I'd forgotten I told you about that. Yes, I don't mind talking about that. Yes, and I've been doing my day job on and off, apart from when they made me redundant, and then they grabbed me back because they were short of people. I've been doing my day job on and off for about 12 years, and I do go into people's homes. I either meet them in the library or in their homes. But when you meet them in their homes, obviously a parent has to be there, or somebody over 18. And I have been working with this boy, big year 6. I mean, he's 11 or 12. He's quite hefty, and he likes his food, and that is relevant to the story. And I was working at home with him, and he had been giving. Well, there were 3 teachers going in, and we're all little. We're all little ladies, and the other little ladies, even smaller than me, had a bit of a problem with him. When she got up to go at the end of the session, he grabbed her hand and wouldn't let go, bent her thumb back. We were aware that there were problems, but his mother was always there. And this happened, it happened in the February half term of this year. It was the Friday just before the end of that half term, because there was nobody around really. So I went into his house aware that there had been a problem in the past. Everything started fine. He sat down next to me, but I should have remembered that we were told by our boss to always have an escape route. But I didn't have one because they got an L-shaped living room, and we used to sit at the dining table, and it was in the L shape.
Right.
And he was sitting on my left, and I was boxed into the bit where the patio doors were. And without going into too much detail because it's a bit tedious, he tried to. He's an Asian boy, and he wears he's a Sikh boy. He wears one of those little scarves on his head before he gets a turban. He brought one in and tried to put one on me, and I pushed him. I didn't push him. I just held my hands up and asked him to stop. And then his mother was in the room, and I said, "Can you tell him that's not appropriate?" And of course, I said he's autistic, but he's only recently been diagnosed, and his parents. They find it, they're ashamed, they don't know how to deal with it. And when I tried to stop him, he went mad, and he grabbed, I was wearing my glasses, he grabbed my glasses and he pulled them off my face, and he snapped, he pushed them back and dropped them on the floor, and the lens fell out. So I got up and said, I'm going to, I said, well, I can't teach you now, I haven't got my glasses, I must get out of here. Of I couldn't get out because he backed me into a corner behind the dining table, and it all happened very quickly, but I did manage to get out, and I was almost there, but two things happened. One, he grabbed my handbag, and as you know, if a woman's handbag is grabbed, she becomes a mad thing, and then I really got angry and went after him, got the handbag back, went to the front door, and we take our shoes off like many people, and I picked up one boot because it was winter, and he picked up my other boot. And ran off with it. So eventually I got the boot back. His mother distracted him, and I escaped. Luckily she left the front door unlocked, and the key was on high, so he didn't know.
Wow.
And after that, two things happened. I realised that I should read instructions more carefully and not think that I was that I couldn't be hurt, and also I decided to go back to contact lenses. Apparently lots of autistic children do have a problem with glasses, which I didn't know.
Oh, right.
And lots of teachers wear glasses, so we must be upsetting them all the time.
Yeah.
So I started wearing contact lenses again, and as Sally, I was wearing glasses on stage because part of my act involves a notebook. And so I'm now wearing contact lenses on stage. So that's a bit of a change for me.
Yeah.
But I like it. I like it because, like most women, I think I look better without my glasses.
I ever found this, like when I gigged in Dublin for a bit, and I had, I found that when I wore glasses, the audience give you just a little bit more. You've got a weakness, you know?
Well, it's very interesting. I was watching something, and I can't remember his name. I was watching live from the BBC. There's been a series of. There's been a Sarah Pascoe one, a John Robbins one, which of course are fascinating because they were living together and they're talking about each other.
Right.
And I saw another chap a couple of days ago, and I can't remember his name, which is awful. But he said at the beginning, he's quite young, and he said, "I've recently started wearing glasses. I had to wear them, and I have to wear them on stage." And he said exactly what you said. The audience treat you differently if you've got glasses on. Not quite sure how, but they just do.
They do. There's a different energy. They go, "Oh, I've got glasses," and they kind of feel sorry for you a little bit. You know?
Okay.
Not. That's a massive sweeping generalisation. But I think
there is something
there
different.
There is definitely. It's like a Woody Allen classic. You know, but it's like, of course he has the diminutive stature as well to go with the whole thing. There's an actor as well from the north called Simon Lomas.
I know him. I've met him.
He's very slight build and has glasses, and on stage he also automatically looks funny, doesn't he? He looks vulnerable automatically. And that's it. They kind of give you a little bit, maybe sometimes, depends on what you talk about as well. But that's, I guess, a generalisation. But you're teaching these autistic kids now. That was terrifying, I'm sure, yeah?
Yes, it was. I can't... But the interesting thing is that the whole thing happened over 10 minutes. Oh. Because he'd gone out of the room to say he said he wanted to go to the loo, and he was away such a long time. I had written in my notes... I don't normally write notes during a lesson, but he was away such a long time. I'd actually written down 1:45, 1:45, he hasn't got back. And then I looked up and he had got back. And then when I finally found myself in my car, and I jumped in my car and I drove very short distance up the road because I didn't have my glasses on. And then I phoned my boss and it was 1:55. So the whole thing only lasted 10 minutes, but it seemed like a long time.
Of course.
It was frightening, and I should have said that his mother was no help at all, because she was clearly frightened of him too. She was just screaming the whole time. It's also very undignified as a teacher to be attacked. And when I got home, I've got a photograph on my phone. My forehead was bleeding.
Oh.
But it was really shocking, but in some ways I've blotted the whole thing out, because I said it was a Friday afternoon. It was the Friday before February half term. And I did manage to reach my boss, and she said, shall I come and get you? Because you said your glasses are broken. I said, well, actually, I've got some prescription sunglasses and I can get home. Yeah. And then I went home, and then it was half term and I didn't hear anything from anybody. It was just like it never happened. Yeah. But of course, none of us went back into his house ever. There was a lot of discussion about how we would deal with it, but afterwards it turned out he'd done a lot worse things than we were ever told.
Right.
And I haven't been into a new person's home environment since. I'm only teaching people in the library. Okay. But the last person I was supposed to teach in the library, he sounded absolutely horrific. And because of what had happened, I said to my boss, if he behaves in the way that you've mentioned, I think I shall have to ask him to leave. She said, of course, but he never turned up to any lessons. Wouldn't come. That happens as well. Yes, it was. But I've done this job for a long time, and maybe I was getting a bit complacent.
Right. It's difficult, I think, for some parents. I mean, not that helps your situation at all. I think a lot of parents, they have this fantasy, don't they? They don't want to believe that their child is autistic, isn't it?
Absolutely. And some cultures believe that it can be cured. But when he was 10 or 11 or 12, and he'd only just been diagnosed, and this is something I find baffling. But then again, I haven't got a child with special needs. So I don't know how I would be, but he'd gone all through his life being violent and unpredictable, and not understanding things. Yeah. Maybe again because of their culture, they didn't want to find out. They thought he was just a bit difficult. Yeah. But he was the youngest of the family. He had 2 older sisters, and apparently he'd hurt both of them. No. But he couldn't help it, and he was on medication. But I think the day that I was there, his mum had forgotten to give him some. It was
a perfect storm for you then, eh? That's great.
Yes. I did at one point shout something. It sounds inane, get him a biscuit, because I know he liked his food. I wanted her to distract him, but she didn't. She didn't take any notice.
It's like that old saying, isn't it? It's like that silly heckle retort, when you're on stage and someone heckles you and you go, "Give that man a biscuit."
Well, I'll think about that. I'm searching at the moment. You can give me some advice. I'm searching for what to do when someone's mobile goes off, because it happened to me the other day, and I know. Traditionally, the comedian walks towards the offending person and picks up the mobile and answers it, and I couldn't do it. He was too far away, and he wouldn't hand it over, but he took the call.
Oh, it's ignorant.
And I was stumped, and I need a really good line for when a mobile goes off, because it's going to happen again. Somebody said, you've got to write that answer now, because it's going to happen again.
Yeah, you need to think of something.
So
he's embarrassing somehow, don't you? Yes, that's fine. We can figure that out afterwards. Yeah, for sure. That's difficult. It's annoying. And how ignorant to do that, to carry on answering the telephone call.
Yeah.
Where was that?
A gig above a pub where people had come for comedy. It wasn't like one of those ones where you hold the customers hostage and they don't want to be there. They'd come upstairs. To see the comedy. It was a really good atmosphere. Everything was fine. And he didn't seem to realise, he didn't seem to think that there was a problem. I think MCs have stopped telling people to turn their phones off because they assume people will do it. The thing in a pub, it's not like a theatre. People want to carry on with their lives and they don't want to miss anything. But no, he didn't try and turn it off. He started answering it.
So you've been going how many years now, Sian?
Nearly 4.
Right.
I went on a course September 2013. I went on a stand-up comedy course, and at the end of that...
Sorry, which one was that?
I think it's called Comedy Novices, and it's still going. It's run by a chap called Bentley Browning. Have you met him?
Yes, I met him. I picked them, yeah.
There's quite a few of us comedy novices about, and when I met Bentley, he was playing in a band as well, and earning a bit of a living as a David Cameron impersonator, but he's no call for that now. So it was good fun, the course. Now, I did English Music and Drama at Teacher Training College, so quite a lot of the exercises that Bentley used were not unfamiliar to me. And it was useful, but in the end, obviously gigging is what you have to do. But I'm very grateful for Bentley for getting me into it, and also the other people on the course were a real lovely bunch of people, all ages. A lot of them were people who'd not moved to London very long, and they did it as a way of making friends. It also was on Meetup. Some of them would come via Meetup. I found it on a website called Star Now, because I'd also done work as a film extra, and that's where I found it.
Yeah.
And so it was a very short course, but it was a lot of fun. And at the end of it, Bentley arranged a showcase afternoon and evening at a pub called the Washington in Belsize Park, and somehow or other from there, and it's all a bit blurred because I was also going through divorce at the time. A lot of things were a bit blurred. I found out about the Comedy Collective on Facebook, which has been so useful. Why are you laughing? It's such a torrent of other stuff apart from comedy as well, isn't it? No, you're right. It is. It can be just it can be used for good, and I mean you can dip in and out of it, but it's just such a tirade of abuse on there sometimes, isn't there? Oh, I see.
I mean, because you said...
You mean the Comedy Collective?
That's it. When you say useful, I was like, it can be certainly used as useful, but it can get a bit out of hand sometimes, can't it?
Yes. I just watch, with my packet of popcorn, as they say.
Same, yeah.
Some amazing stuff. And I feel sorry for the people who started it, because that's not what they meant it for. And they're very tolerant of some of the stuff that goes on, but at the same time it's also fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes, that's how I got all my original London gigs. There's a very special place in my heart for Jamie McGrath and Heavenly Comedy, because that was my first proper gig. Great. Been back there probably, I don't know, half a dozen times since then. I was there a couple of weeks ago. That was my first proper gig, and I enjoyed it. And that was emceed by Elf Lyons, who now is doing really well.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting seeing the people that were around when I started all getting famous.
Yeah.
Exciting, I think, yes.
Yeah, very much so.
Yes.
And so you had your first gig at the Washington.
That was the showcase gig, and the people there were all friends and family, and they were all very supportive and sympathetic. One of the other comedy novices, he chickened out and he didn't want to do his spot, but he very kindly filmed everybody else.
Right.
And he filmed me, so I actually have a record of my very first gig, and it's still on YouTube, and I should take it down, but I haven't.
Brilliant.
And it's fascinating.
It's brilliant.
To look at that now.
See how far you've come, it's great.
Yes.
You said you changed to doing Sally Firth. What was it? Why? What happened?
Well, I know, in a way, I did a gig at Monkey Business.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm not slightly off Monkey Business, but I died. I did a gig at Monkey Business I think it was a Saturday night. I was on really late, and they didn't find me funny, and they didn't. You just sort of sat there with their arms folded. And I remember I came out of there and I rang Sandra Hale, who's a really good friend. You've had her on, I know. She's a really good friend of mine. I met through comedy, and I'll always be grateful for that. And I was very depressed about how badly it had gone, and maybe I don't know what happened exactly, but it was just after that I started again. I thought maybe I need to do something. Very strange, but I know it was after that gig where I'd been doing stuff I'd been doing for ages, and it didn't go well. And then I started working on Sally, and honestly, I'd always had an idea that it would be fun, because I don't look like a stand-up comedian, and I'd always had an idea it would be fun to come on and say, look, I'm here by mistake, and I just had to work out why I was there. I know. And there's another comedian who pretends that she thinks she's also she's older than me. Right. She pretends she's come to a yoga class or something, or Weight Watchers or something like that. And I decided I would pretend that I was there in place of my son. And it was that was after I'd been gigging for just over a year. And I invented Sally just before I went to Edinburgh for the first time. That was very exciting. So yes, it came out of a bad gig, as so many things do. I think.
Comes out of pain, right?
Yes. I don't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
And in the main, the character Sally works well, but sometimes people don't realise that it's a joke.
All right.
But I'm learning all the time. Yes, and people ask me why she's called Sally, And that's because my ex-husband's living with a woman called Sally.
Oh, right. so if she dies, it's her that dies, right?
Well, I don't know. It made me feel good.
Yeah, of course.
Just a bit of fun. When I invented her, they said we've got to give her a name, and because she was just comedy mum. That also, once I did a gig and the MC was about 20, and he introduced me as his comedy mum. And I thought that was quite funny, and so it was born of lots of different things. And so I met Sally. So Sally Firth, it's a pun on Sally as a joke, and Sally Forth, which very few people realise it's a pun on Sally Forth.
Yeah. So you didn't mind that comedian calling you the comedy mum?
No, I'm old enough to be. I'm old enough to be his grandmother. Really, that doesn't bother me at all.
Right.
I play on the fact
that
people are puzzled. I often sit in the, like you, quite a lot of gigs, we sit in the audience before we go on, and I was at a gig on Saturday night, I was sitting in the audience, and I'm older than everyone else there, always by 10 years, and sometimes by 20 years, and I can see people looking at me thinking, what's that old woman doing there? And sometimes they chat to me, thinking, poor old soul. And then when I go on stage and I do my act, it's great. But I was it was just great to see the reaction. Yeah. But on Saturday was funny for two reasons, because there was this man, not that much younger, a man about my age and somebody younger, and they'd been heckling all the way through. They knew the MC, and I hadn't been on, and the younger man came up to me in the last interval before I was due to go on. Hello, dear lady, I've seen you sitting on your own. I'm lucky to see you. Nice to meet you. What's your name? And I said, oh, Sally. And he said, oh, okay. And I said, well, actually, now you've spoken to me, can I ask you something? I'm going to be going on stage after the interval, and I can't cope with hecklers. Yeah. So can I ask you and your friend not to heckle? Oh. And he said, okay, and he didn't, and he heckled everyone else.
Great.
So it was quite useful. But then when I went on, the MC said, here comes Sally Firth, who's just won King Gong at the Comedy Store. Yeah. And I thought, I know you mean well, but please don't tell them that. Yeah. And after he said, I'm sorry that I did that. I know it's supposed to be your first gig. Mm-hmm. Anyway.
You won the Comedy Store Gong Show.
Yes.
How was that? What happened? Tell me about it.
It was wonderful. I've won. I do quite well at Gong shows. I don't do well at industry competitions, if you like, and I keep on trying. I never get past the first round, but again, because of the difference between what I look like and what I sound like and what people expect, when I walk on stage at a Gong show, there's nearly always a ripple of disbelieving laughter. Yeah. Fine. Right. And I've won quite a lot of Gong shows, right. But you know, of course, that the jewel in the crown is winning King Gong at London Comedy Store, and I've done the Comedy Store in Manchester, and I didn't win, but I did get to the final 3 last year. Yeah. And yes, I won Beat the Frog at the Frog and Bucket the same weekend, and then when I went back for the next round, I didn't even beat the flipping Gong, which is a bit embarrassing because I've got some friends from Leeds to come and watch me. Yeah. So you know that the Comedy Store in London, you can only apply every 6 months, and I did it obviously a year ago first of all, and didn't beat the Gong, fine, and then I did it on Halloween last year, which was the most horrific night ever. They were baying for blood, but at the same time it was so exciting. Buzz. People getting up on stage, and just really good people that I knew opening their mouth, bang, off they go. And of course I got gonged off there, and I thought, I'm going to have another go. I'm going to have another go. So I wrote in, and I did it. It was the last Monday in June, and I have worked really hard to hit the ground running. And that's, again, you're more experienced than me, but I've learned that you've got to be funny right from the beginning. They haven't got time to get to know you, not in a Gong show. And so I had invented a new opening line specifically for Amused Moose, because in Amused Moose you only had, 30 seconds or something ludicrous. I think it's 90 seconds now. Yeah, but it was a minute and a half. It's not much, is it? No. So I invented a new opening line just for that, because I knew that, and I've been using it ever since. And I used that when I came on, and it just, when I went, and again I got advice from another comedian, which is go on early before they're fed up and drunk. So I arrived at plenty of time, and I went, and I was on about 3rd or 4th. I walk on stage immediately. They laugh because, what's that old woman doing up there? And so I start off with my standard opening line, which is, thank you all very much for coming to support me in my age concern comedy challenge. And they liked that. And then it was just wonderful. They just loved everything I did, and I've got a video and everything.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
When you go back for your spot?
Friday the 13th of October.
Oh no, October again. Oh, well, that's fine though. Well, you know, it's just a number. It's just a number.
Yes, it is. It is. I'm very grateful for it, and I'm very. I mean, it was wonderful. It was the best night ever. I've got, but I probably should have stayed around, chat to people. But my way is I always just go straight home after the gig, and I passed. But the funny thing was, and I also always try and wear distinctive clothing, even though people usually know it's me because I'm old. When I do a gig, I always try and wear something that people can remember. So if they want to come and say something nice, they're not going to mix me up with someone else. And if they want to avoid me, they know what I look like. I was very lucky because there were a few people there performing that I knew, and a couple of people who'd just been to watch. I got home and I came out of the train station at South Ruislip. I was walking down the road, and then somebody shouted from a car, "Well done tonight." And I said, "Excuse me." He said, "Weren't you just at the Comedy Store in London?" And I said, "Yes, we saw you." This is a middle-aged man and his wife, and they'd obviously come home on the same train and recognised the outfit, I guess, as well.
That's great.
That was really nice.
That's near where you are then, is it?
Yes,
Excellent.
South Ruislip, my nearest station. I was just walking back to my car, and they saw me walking by and they recognised me.
Got one fan near your home place?
Yes.
That's
Well,
brilliant.
perhaps I should get in touch. Perhaps I'm actually going to be doing a gig at the Comedy Bunker in Ruislip in October, because I've always wanted to perform there because my local comedy club. Right now I've got the brilliant video from the Comedy Store. I sent it off to Phil, and he said he had to give me only an open spot.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Is it the weigh-in, isn't it? That's it?
I hope so.
Brilliant. You said you did some extra work and acting, and you did your teacher training in English and drama?
Main subject was, in the old days, you could get to teach training college doing one main subject. You can't do that now, and you can also become a teacher without having a degree, which you can't now. Yes, my main subject was English, and the subsidiaries were music and drama, which only meant 2 hours a week of those subjects. And because I was primary trained, I did used to run a drama club when I was a learning support assistant at a secondary school. Right. I've done some very odd things. All these teenage boys trying to get them to move to music. I've always been involved with drama, but actually, Winter, I'm a terrible actress.
Oh, right.
So I've got no illusions about that. But I've always done stuff with drama, and I started doing. No, as an extra, you don't have to do any acting.
Right.
And I started doing extra work about 10 years ago.
Yeah. What was the first thing you ever did?
The first thing I ever did, oh my goodness, an early job. It wasn't my first job, but a lot of people are so keen to be extras, they'll do it for nothing, and that's still happening. I do very little extra work now. And I did. I was an extra on a film called The Infidel, which you may have heard of. It was written by David Baddiel, and it stars Omar Jalili. Yeah. And it's about a taxi driver, and his wife is played by that beautiful girl who was in The Good Wife. Can't remember her name. But he's a. I get it the right way around. He's a Muslim taxi driver who finds he's Jewish, or he's a Jewish taxi driver who finds he's Muslim. How awful! I can't remember which way around it was. Anyway,
I think both are equally bad, isn't it?
Yes. And so that was the idea. And I said, it was written by David Baddiel. Omar Jalili was in it, and I was an extra. There was a scene that was filmed in a meeting. And we filmed it on the roof of Somerset House near Waterloo, and we had to meet in this car park near Waterloo Station early in the morning, as we always do, and it was a really hot day, and then we spent the whole of the day on this roof of Somerset House pretending we were people taking part in this meeting, and it was really, really hot. We got really, really tired, and some of us were almost hysterical by the end. Yeah. A lot of the men who were bald had to have the makeup artist putting stuff on their head to stop them getting burnt. I remember that. We were getting paid, but at the end of the day, we had to queue up to get our money. It was £12. Oh. We got £12 in our hand. I mean, that's so insulting.
Absolutely. The whole day.
Yes, for the whole day. But that was what... I mean, I did lots of jobs for nothing in those days. I didn't know any better. That was an early job. I can't remember what my first job is. I wrote everything down, though. Every single extras job I've done, I've got a little book, and I'm the same with all my gigs.
For the memoir, I'm the same. Yes. I have to write down every gig, no matter how it went, no matter what happened.
Yes.
I had a gig the other day that was 666, and I was like, oh no, and it was for a charity gig. And I was like, I'm sure I'm coming up to, because you know how many gigs you're coming up to.
Yes,
I'm sure I'm getting close to that number, but let's not think about that number. Wow. So your extra stuff, right? Did you do any auditions as well, or?
I did a few auditions, and in fact, yes, I did. Most of extras work, you don't audition. You either just apply by email, and you get, because you don't have to. As an extra, it's just a body. No. But I did audition for one, and sadly, yes, Lee Nelson, Simon Brodkin, right? He had as Lee Nelson, he had a comedy show going, and it's actually very low because it was filmed in the disused St Albans Hospital. Oh. I applied for an extras job, and I had to audition at the production company, which was in Chelsea, or I can't remember exactly where it was anyway. And I went along to the offices, and I sort of ran through the very brief audition bit, and there was a chap sitting in the corner of the room, and I didn't realise who he was. And he listened and said hello. I think he said, hello, my name is Simon, and I didn't realise that it was Lee Nelson in his real self. And after he shook my hand and said, nice to meet you, and wandered off, and after he'd gone out of the room, they said, you do realise that's Lee Nelson, don't you? And I said, no, I didn't. Anyway, I did get the extra part, and I was a pal with the hospital patient. One of his characters was a bonkers doctor, and I was a hospital patient in this bed, in this disused St Albans Hospital that we filmed in, but sadly it never made it to TV. But I've had very few auditions, and most of them I haven't got through because I can't really act. I'm just a body. I'm an extra in Skyfall. Oh yeah, which I've never seen myself.
Blind girl then, That's it. Yes. Wow, I didn't know.
Right at the end, there's this, and I've never watched the whole film through. Yeah. There's a scene where he's James Bond is chasing Javier Bardem along through a tube station and on a train, and I was one of the tube passengers in that. Yeah. And that was the filming of that was really exciting, which we filmed for 2 days under Charing Cross. Great. Under the Charing Cross Hotel. They had a bit of tube line that wasn't being used, and we used it for the filming. And you can't see me, but I was in that. But there's another film I was an extra in. The most recent one really was Steve Coogan played Paul Raymond, the porn star and property magnate, and it was meant to be called The King of Soho, but his family wouldn't let or somebody wouldn't let them use that name. So it ended up being called The Look of Love. And it wasn't a particularly good film, but I was an extra in it, and they were very short of money. So one day they got 20 extras, 10 men and 10 women, and they filmed 3 scenes set in 3 eras, the 50s, the 60s and the 70s, and and the makeup was fantastic, and we were each made up 3 times for these 3 scenes, the same 20 people. So I was there was a court scene. They took me out of that in the end. There was a court scene, there was an auction scene, and then there was the court scene was in the 1950s, the auction scene was the 1960s, and the last scene was a coroner's court because Paul Raymond's daughter died of a drug overdose, and it was set in the coroner's court. And you can't really see me in the second one. The makeup and the costume was absolutely fantastic, absolutely brilliant. But in the third one, there is a shot where it sort of pans through the coroner's court, and I'm actually on the screen at the same time as Steve Coogan, who looked at his mobile whenever the shooting finished. And then another comedian messaged me on Facebook and said, I've just seen you on TV, because he did recognise me. Brilliant. Which is fun. I mean, I didn't have anything to say. Yeah. So being an extra is okay, but it's not as much fun as being stand-up. That's true. That's it. You're like furniture, aren't you? Yeah. And sometimes you get treated very badly. Very true. Yeah. Very true. But why did you start stand-up? I've thought about this. Well, it was by accident. Because, as I said, I was going through a divorce, and I'd also been made redundant, and I was living in the same house as my husband while we were getting divorced, and that wasn't much fun. I spent a lot of time upstairs on the computer just playing on the internet, and I was on this website, Star Now, looking for extras jobs, which I was able to do because I was unemployed. And then I just saw the advert for Bentley's course, and it just said, I saw him the other day, and I mentioned it to him, and he didn't realise that I'd got it through Star Now. I think he thought I'd got it through Meetup, and he just said, if you ever wanted to do stand-up, free taster course, come along to the Royal Festival Hall and have a go. And I did go along, and then sort of signed up. But I have always wanted to do stand-up. Without a doubt, I never thought I'd actually do it. And I've always been a big fan of stand-up comedy, And in the 1980s, I went to the original Comedy Store and saw quite a few people.
Oh, wow.
When I worked in London, I used to go to the BBC radio recordings of things like Goodness Gracious Me and things like that before they got to TV.
Yeah.
So I've always been a fan of comedy, but not mainstream comedy. You know, I do like some stuff, but I like stuff that's a bit dark and a bit risky.
So what's your flavour then?
Chris Morris.
Right.
I was rewatching Jam only a couple of days ago because my internet went down, so I had to watch a DVD. I think I'd like to meet Chris Morris, but at the same time I'm terrified of him because the man's got the most weird imagination, but he's behind so many things I admire. I mean, if you watch...
I don't know him, I'm going to research him now.
He was part of the team behind the Day Today, where Alan Partridge was created. So the Day Today was written by him, and also Armando Iannucci, who everyone of course has heard of. And Chris Morris played the newsreader there,
right?
And he's just really frightening. But he also wrote a whole series of cod documentaries. He used to be on BBC Radio London, as it then was, and what his speciality is going up to members of the public in those days and asking them completely nonsensical questions, and instead of them saying what the hell are you talking about, they pretend they understand and make real fools of themselves. But he did a series called Jam, and also these
I've seen Jam.
Yes, he was
very, very dark, isn't it?
Terribly dark.
There's a one when he's a doctor or something, is that right?
Well, he doesn't normally play a doctor. He normally gets an older chap to play the doctor. But yes, I mean, there's one horrible story, one that stuck in my mind, and lots of the people who are in it. Mark Heap's in it, very good people. There's one really bizarre one where he's making fun of the London property market, which you can still do, and the things people used to do to secure a house sale. And there was one sketch, we can call it a sketch, where this woman was told she could only buy this man's house if she slept with him. But I'm making it sound much nicer than it actually was. And the background music and the dark colours, it's terrifying. I like stuff that's a bit weird and frightening.
And is there anything in the recent culture that you can connect with, like on that same sort of vein? No, I mean, I'm not sorry. The wording of that is terrible. But you know what I'm saying? Like anything,
walking frame.
No, but you know, like anything of like in comedy currently that you kind of go. Oh yeah, I like that's nearly what I like, but not totally as dark as
Stuart Lee. I like Stuart Lee, and I came very late to Stuart Lee. I wasn't really aware of Lillian Herring. That's right. Yeah. But what happened was he had a TV series on a couple of years ago, and I got Netflix, and I picked it up on Netflix, Stuart Lee's comedy vehicle, and I adored it. And then I got to see him live. I was in High Wycombe, I think, last year, and I just loved it. Yeah. And I feel a bit stupid because it's sort of I'm jumping on the bandwagon. I think he's brilliant. But what was interesting, before I was aware of him, so I used to see people writing saying, "Oh, that comedian is trying to sound like Stuart Lee," and I didn't know what they meant. And then when I saw them on stage, I realised what they were doing. The sort of the layering, the way he tells a joke. I just love him. And lots of other people but I mean, he's the one that comes to mind because I discovered him very late. And there's a lot of comedians that people find funny that I don't find funny. Oh, Sean Locke I really like as well.
One of my favourites.
Yes.
One of my favourites. Yes. So playful and silly.
Yes,
And what's the pet peeve of yours that you were talking about, like all the male comedians talking about this stuff on stage? What is your pet peeve that you see?
Well, I would say, and see, because I was raised on the open mic circuit, I've done nearly 400 gigs. These are things that annoy me as a comedian, if I may call myself that probably wouldn't draw the audience member. It's when people go on and say, you know, how are we all doing? What do you do for a living? What's the other one? Oh yes, shout out who's got children, or shout out who's in a partnership, and then the reverse. Oh, that makes people sound happier. I just find that really tedious. And my character never asks people how they are. I don't interact with the audience. That's because I'm not very good at it. But there are certain things when you do a bill with 10 other comedians, they all go and say, "Hey, yeah, how are you all doing?" Don't waste your time with that.
Yeah, that's it. And
have you got pet peeves?
I think Tinder. Tinder's one for me. Just like if you got a really good joke about it, great. But it's just like there's a Pokemon, Tinder.
Okay. Well, you see, I find that's useful. You see, because the basis of my act is using things that people recognise and have all been used over and over again. Yeah. And I didn't know that I've never heard people talk about Pokemon. Yes, Tinder, internet dating. Because when I first started doing stand-up, Tinder wasn't the thing. It was just internet dating, and I did used to talk about that. But I can't talk about it as Sally because Sally's married. But when I first started doing comedy, I was acting as if I was already divorced, and I was doing internet dating, and I had quite a lot of stuff about that, and I've tried to reuse it, tried to recycle it into Sally, and it doesn't really work unless I pretend it's her friend Angela who's divorced. I do that as well. I'm actually searching for the moment for more, because I don't do so much open mic. I'm searching for those hack topics that Sally can talk about. Yeah,
because you're separated from yourself by a really thin veil, aren't you? Yeah. And it's just thin enough to feel relaxed, because it's all about being comfortable up there, isn't it?
Yes.
And you have developed this character just to go, okay, right, this is just like a suit. I'm just going to, a sort of one little protective layer that covers me, and I can do this. And it's a great idea. It's because it just gives you that little bit of breathing space to deliver your jokes and be comfortable. You can deliver these topics ironically and go, well, this is my son wrote this, it's fine, and it gives you that separation. So even if they don't like a subject, they can go along with it either way, isn't it? Well, it's their son, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So what is the next move then, Sian?
I'd like to get more paid gigs. I am getting paid gigs. I have got 20 minutes of material, but it's not all good. It needs work. I'm still writing new stuff, and I've tried out a new joke twice in the last week. It hasn't had the reception that I'd hoped for, and I've got to work on that. But I'd like to have a solid 20-minute set that I can do as take round clubs and get paid for. I don't think I will ever do an Edinburgh show. It doesn't really appeal to me, but I just like to get regular gigs, once a week, twice a week, on a Friday or a Saturday, doing a solid 20-minute set. And at the moment I get paid gigs about once a month, not very much, and I'm still having to apply. Occasionally I get asked. But it's just to have a really good 20 minutes. I'd like to make people cry with laughter. Some people manage to do that, and I haven't. And I'd like to do that, just to be better, to write better stuff.
So you were saying before we started recording, you said that you're slowly starting to change and bring more of yourself into your act. Like Sally is becoming more you, you're saying. And talking about your...
Well, I was just saying that really Sally isn't anyone. It just really is me. It's my thoughts. But what's important for me, when I'm playing Sally's got to be likeable. And in general, she's likeable. People do like her. And I'm not that likeable. And so there are some things I have to be careful not to say, because I don't want to alienate the audience. I have got a joke that always makes people gasp, but it makes them laugh as well. And I don't think anyone's ever gone away thinking that's too far, because it's a good... It's my best joke. I would never drop it. But I would never want to... For instance, Sally can't read the Daily Mail, okay? Right. Because that would alienate too many people. She couldn't be a racist, because that would alienate too many people. I don't think she does read the Daily Mail, or she's racist, but a lot of my girlfriends read the Daily Mail, and they're lovely people. But in the comedy world that you and I move in, nearly all the comedians are left-wing, and they regard the Daily Mail as a most appalling paper. So she can't read the Daily Mail.
Right. Okay. So like you're just...
Sorry.
But so you're okay. So you're just trying to fashion her into like a person that can. There's no way that they can be disliked in any way.
That's it.
But like to be fair, I'm going to say the same thing. I find personally, on stage when I first started, I was incredibly unlikable. That's what I felt of me, and then but I think that was just out of fear. Yes. When I was first on stage, I think that was just like, it gave me an awful lot of energy, which made me incredibly repellent to an audience. I felt that's what I felt, Okay. And but that might be a huge amount of paranoia on my part. The more you get comfortable up there, the more likeable you hopefully become.
Yes, there are some comedians, though, who thrive on being dislikable.
Yeah.
There's some on the open mic circuit, and there's people like Frankie Boyle on the professional circuit.
But he also he has tests the boundaries of where he can go. Yeah. There is still an inherent sort of mischievousness that everyone likes about him. It's like he's just playing. Do you not find that?
I listen to him.
Yeah.
I have access to a lot of comedy material at the moment,
and
I've listened to everybody to learn. And I can't like him.
Really?
But I listen to him because he's interesting, and also because he's successful. But he is so cruel. Still funny, but not likeable. I don't find him likeable in any way.
Okay. All right. No, that's cool. It's just opinions. That's no right or wrong answer.
It doesn't mean that I won't listen to him, but. No, I don't find him mischievous. No, I don't.
Okay.
So some of the things I've heard, I've got a couple of CDs made from his DVDs, and I'm not saying I don't find it funny, because a lot of that I do, but he's also very, very cruel, and he doesn't come across as likeable.
You talk about your OCD. Do you mind talking about that?
No, not at all. No.
Okay, so you talk about that on stage now as well, don't you?
Yes. Very briefly talk about it on stage right at the end, because I've got this list of topics, and one of the topics that Johnny has written down is the word anal.
Right.
And I put that down because lots of comedians talk about it, but I twisted it round, and I think that he's talking about being anally retentive, you see. So I just say, he's written anal. Well, I am quite anal. And that normally gets laughed, because people think, she's not going to talk about that. And then I say, I can't drink coffee out of mug mark tea, and that's true. And I had a panic attack last week in Sainsbury's, because I got to the checkout and all I had were Tesco's bags. And there's a couple of other things. It's not perfect anyway. And I was going home on the train with Zara Barry from a gig a few weeks ago. And you always have the best chats on the way home. You can't really have a chat during the gig. And we were all on the train from Tunbridge to wherever it was, Charing Cross or something. And she said, and I was telling her about this, and she said, you should do more about it. Because she found it very entertaining when I was telling her about the other things I did to do with my OCD, about wearing certain clothes at certain times. And then I had a conversation with another comedian who I won't name, who's also got very similar OCD to do with clothes as well. So there's a lot of us about.
Yeah.
And Gwilym Argos, I looked at his comedy CV for some reason the other day, and it actually says he's got OCD on his CV.
Do you have Netflix?
Yes.
Do you find that incredibly difficult then, because you want to watch everything?
Oh, no. I mean, OCD is... everybody's OCD is different.
Sure.
I say this all the time. I watch a programme called Obsessive Compulsive Cleaners.
Right.
And very sadly, my OCD doesn't mean that I'm obsessively compulsively clean.
Right.
I'm not... I live alone, and I'm not keen on housework. So my OCD applies in some areas but not in others. No, I don't. Interesting you mention that, because I used to work with a bloke that I think he'd had OCD. He thought it was his job to watch every single new film release.
Wow. Yeah.
And nobody told him to do that, but no, I've got to go and see all these films because they've just come out. I've got to go and see them.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. It's not like that. It's just to do with it's mostly to do with things belonging together. For instance, you've made me a cup of coffee. Yeah. In a mug marked mushroom soup.
Right.
And I mention it because it's funny, because I wouldn't do that. And if I have a couple of people round for coffee, I've got matching mugs. Obviously, they have the matching mugs. But when my daughter and her boyfriend come to stay, he often makes us a cup of tea. And the other day, he brought in cups of tea. We all had a mug, and none of the mugs matched. And I said, Tom, you know that I've got matching mugs up there. Why have you not brought in mugs that match? He said, well, it tastes, of course, it tastes the same. That's just...
You want to relax while you're drinking the tea, don't you? Really? That's it.
I can't. It makes sense to drink. If you've got if matching things didn't matter, why do people buy matching dinner services?
That's true. Yeah.
But then my friend's daughter, who's about 30. She makes a big deal about not having matching china. She serves all her meals on non-matching china. She doesn't like stuff that matches.
Yeah, to keep things... Did you do improv as well as doing the comedy course?
No, I hate improv. I hate it. I can't cope at all. Yeah. It's weird because in my daily life, I think I deal with all sorts of situations pretty well, cope with all sorts of things that happen to me. But I can't do improv, and I can't banter on stage. I can't cope with a different situation. I've got my script. I've got to stick to it. I did do an improv course at the Bill Murray about 6 months ago, and it was run by the chap from the Pyjama Men, Shanoa Allen, and it was so hard for me, and I was really out of my comfort zone. And there was one particular bit where I had to pretend to be opening a door. You would think that would be difficult, and I couldn't get it. And in the end, I said to him, "I just can't do it anymore." And he said, "Okay, fine."
Yeah.
It's really, I can't. I mean, I'm not good at mime.
Yeah.
I just no improv.
Damn it, hey, no good at mime. That's a shame, eh? That's it. There goes your mime career, Sean.
Yes.
Did you finish the course? Or just one day?
Oh, the improv. It was just a one day. It was a 1 day course, yes. And it just proved to me that I'm never going to be any good at improv. Right. I've got no interest in improv, but some people like it, and also a lot of people have said to me, if you want to progress as a comedian, you should MC.
Oh, that's great.
And I don't want to MC.
No, that's it. It's fair.
Because I can't banter with the audience. Whenever something unexpected occurs at a gig, I completely mess it up. I can't deal with it.
That's it. But you're doing really well. You won the King Gong, so just got to write your 20-minute set and.
Yes. Well, I've just I mean, I've got 20 minutes. I've just got to work to improve on it. I can't exist on. But that 5-minute video, I think, has already got me a couple of gigs.
Great.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Right. You're going to try clown next, or?
No, absolutely not. No. I've got very strict parameters. No.
Right.
I don't think. I think when I applied for that, I think I didn't really know what I was applying for. I can't remember what I thought it was, but I couldn't turn round and run away when I realised. No, I wasn't comfortable. I mean, I do sometimes try and get out of my comfort zone, but I can't see any purpose in that. There's plenty of comedians. I mean, there's the one, Russell Hicks, for instance. You can get up on stage and just talk about different things every time. It's just not my way. There's room for us all on the circuit.
Of course. You're doing the Camden Fringe?
Yes.
And you're going to Edinburgh this year as well?
Go to Edinburgh, just doing the spots and compilation shows,
right.
Yes.
And is that, so 3 Men and a Babe are going to Camden Fringe, right?
Yes, the first week in August.
And then just going to do spots in Edinburgh, is that right?
Yeah.
Right. Where can we come see you?
Oh, I wasn't expecting you to ask. I have got a website, but it's not up to date. Sure. So it's just put in siandoughty.com, you'll find it. I can't. I mean, I haven't got any gigs now before Camden, but I need to tune things up. So it's the first week. It's the first week of August. It's the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th of August at the Etc. Theatre from 4:30 to 5:30.
Great.
And all over Edinburgh. Begging spots and people shows, yes. And then, the Comedy Store on the 13th of October and Rice at Comedy Bank on the 20th, both of which I'm really excited about.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
And is there anything you do to pre-gig to just calm yourself down?
No, not really. I make sure I eat. I always take... since I've got divorced, I live nearer to the centre of London, so I can eat beforehand. But I used to live quite far out, and it would take me an hour and a half to get to a gig, and I'd have to leave quite early. So I would take food with me, and I do take. Still, sometimes I do take my meal with me. And I did a gig last year, and the other comedian, Ed Decanter, we were doing a gig together. He's not gigging anymore, and we're both of an age, and we both got out the Tupperware container at the same time and started eating. I was very pleased that he did the same. I've got something to eat, and I've always got water with me. I don't get nervous except just before I go on stage. Every time I'm standing in the wings and I think, what am I doing? I must be mad. I'm 61 years old. I mean, this is ridiculous. But that's the only time I get nervous. Yeah.
Will you keep on entering the competitions as well, or are you just going to gig on the circuit?
I will, because the only reason I want to enter a competition is I want to be reviewed by a professional reviewer, and nobody... Steve Bennett, lucky man, has never seen me. Bruce Desso's never seen me. And no one else that I know of them. I mean, Hills Jago see me, but she obviously I was very good. I've got some quite nice quotes from serious promoters, if you like. But I really would like a professional viewer to see me. I did enter the Silver Comedian of the year, and I sent a video, and I didn't have to do the first round, and the semi-finals were in Leicester, semi-final stroke final in Leicester in February, I think it was, and there was a massive storm, and all the lines, the lines came down, and there were no trains running to Leicester from Euston, so I couldn't go, which was a real shame because professional people would have seen me.
Yeah.
But that's the only reason I keep doing it, because I don't do well in competitions. And now I've won the Gong Show at the Comedy Store, I don't think I can go any further with the Gong Show, because that's the hardest. Isn't that the hardest Gong Show?
I think so. Yeah, I think that is.
But I mean, obviously, it's not the end; it's the beginning. I've done up the creek 3 times, and I've beaten. I haven't won, but I've beaten the Blackout 3 times. And I went up after the last time, and I said, "Look, I've beaten the Blackout 3 times, 3 years, 3 different times, 3 years. Though I haven't won, could I get a spot?" And he said, "Oh, we think about you possibly for Sunday night," but I haven't heard anything. And I'm not going to go back. The awful thing is, if you've already beaten the Gong and then you go back and then you don't beat the Gong, it's a retro step. So I won't ever try the Comedy Store Gong again in case I fail.
That's it, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, if you just want to hopefully do well at that spot you've got on the 13th.
Yes, hopefully.
And I'm sure you will, and then just a longer spots then, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, I'm not... Look, the thing is, I know that I'm not what people want. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. So I don't have any illusions about making a living out of it or doing really well. But there are certain people that think I'm funny, and as long as I can find my audience. But they tend to be out of London, They tend to be cricket clubs and social clubs and stuff, middle-aged people. They like my stuff.
Funny's funny, Sean. That's it. Funny's funny. Doesn't matter how old you are.
Well,
that's it.
But I'm not what people are looking for. Anyway, I'm very lucky that I've had a lot of fun in the last 4 years. Yeah.
Great. So we can find you at SianDoughty.com. And you are Sally Firth is your character.
Yes.
And you can find her online as well. Can we find her online?
Well, there's loads of YouTube videos, probably too many. I should get rid of the rubbish ones. Yes, just look at the last one, the Comedy Store one, which I have written underneath, with the set that won King Gong, because there's no point being coy at this stage of the game.
Are you on Facebook as well with Sally Firth?
Yes. I mean, I'm on my own name, Sian Doughty. That's my married name. I didn't bother to change that when I got divorced. It was too many other things to think about. But underneath, I've got in brackets Sally Firth.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see you at the Camden Fringe or in Edinburgh.
Yes.
Well,
thank
Sean,
you very much, Winter.
No, thanks for coming to the show. It's great. Yeah, thank you.
That's great. Thank you for asking me. Lovely.
And that was the very funny Sian Doughty, a.k.a. Sally Firth. She's got her first 10-minute spot in the Comedy Store in London on the 13th of October. So go and see her, go and support her. Very funny comedian. Go check her out on Facebook, Twitter, all of those places. You can also follow this podcast on Twitter at The Comedy Defect. You can also follow me at Winter Phonander. You can also see my live stand-up gig dates, which are on my website, which Danny Clives is still fixing, which is at winterphonander.com. That's where it is. You can also find us on Patreon. You go to Patreon if you feel like you want to donate something. Donate as little as £1 or as much as you feel this podcast is worth. And those of you that do donate, thanks, because you're paying for the people that can't. And those of you that can't donate, hey, look, just go to your iPhone, because you can leave a nice, honest review on iTunes now via your phone now, which is great. So leave us a nice, honest review, because it really helps. But that's it for this episode of the Comedy Defect podcast. That was episode 53 with a very funny Sian Doughty, a.k.a. Sally Firth. We'll see you next month for episode 54. And go join the Comedy Defect Facebook group to find out who that is. We'll see you next month, guys.